How do you like that for a home opener? The New York Mets just put the beat down on the Arizona Diamondbacks, as they should, but just a perfect day. Contributions top to bottom in the lineup. The Tom Seaver statue is unveiled. Chris Bassitt looks great on the mound. 4 home runs for the first time in a home opener in franchise history. This team is absolutely legit. This is the best team in the National League East. I said it preseason, but I didn't go all in. Now I'm going all in. I'm not hedging anymore and saying, well, it's still the Braves division to win. No, this is the Mets division to win this year. We're going to talk about it on this special edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Now, typically with the Locked On Podcast Network, we go Monday through Friday. I already had the Friday show that went up this morning. Really good podcast. We did our Friday Farm Report, me and Jordan Grossman. We talked about Francisco Alvarez. Could we see him debut this year? Maybe, because the future's bright in the minor leagues. The future's bright with Francisco Alvarez and Brett Beatty and Ronnie Mauricio and Mark Vientos and all these guys that theoretically could contribute, if not this season, next season. And you know what? The present is just as bright. This Mets team is so good. So you know what? Had to record today. There's no way I could not record after the game I just watched. After I just watched the Mets go out and destroy the Diamondbacks. It was a 10-1 game. I don't care about what happened in the ninth inning with Sean Reed-Foley. He shouldn't even be on the roster anyway. It's 28-man rosters. He's out there for mop-up duty, throw strikes, but whatever. Who cares about Sean Reed-Foley at this moment? Let's talk about this Mets lineup, because it is loaded. And going into the season, I was wondering, how could it not work? Because I was telling you Jeff McNeil's going to bounce back. Once again, a multi-hit game. Feel like he's had more multi-hit games than just single-hit games at this point in the season. I haven't looked that up, but I would guess based on eye test that's true. You got Francisco Lindor, who I told you was the same guy that he had been from June on last year. June on, you look at his stats, it was the same Lindor as he was in Cleveland. And what are we seeing right now? We are seeing that Lindor, a Lindor that's capable of hitting 2 home runs in a game like he did in the home opener today. Starling Marte, going into the offseason, who did I tell you was the number one priority the Mets had to target? Starling Marte, because he was going to be a huge upgrade over Michael Conforto. Offensively and defensively, just brings an element that this team did not have. Just an athletic freak, the speed, the cannon of an arm, the ability to play gold glove defense in right field, to be able to hit absolute tanks like the 3-run homer we saw him hit against the Diamondbacks today. And so just look at those 3 players, McNeil, Lindor, Marte, in this game, 1 through 3 in your lineup. 7 for 13, 3 walks, 3 home runs, 7 runs, 6 RBIs. You're going to win any game when your top 3 does that. 99 times out of 100. And then you just go down the line. You know, after Lindor with the 2 home runs, Marte with the 1, you have Pete Alonso. Was it his best game? I mean, you know, he didn't hit a home run, but 2 sac flies. Got the Mets on the board early. Those are the first 2 runs they scored. And now he has a team lead 12 RBIs on the season. He's trailing only Jose Ramirez in all of baseball, who has 14. And he's on pace. You know, if you do the math, 8 games, 12 RBIs, that's 1.5 RBIs per game. So if he can hold this pace, you're talking about a 243 RBI season from Pete. Not going to happen, but, you know, when I told you to bet on Pete Alonso leading the league in RBIs, I feel like that's possible. Jose Ramirez, is he going to keep this up? We'll see. I'm sure there's others that will get into the mix as well. It's just over a week. But Pete Alonso with this team has the ability to get RBIs because he's coming up in spots where, all right, first couple at bats, all you got to do is get one into the outfield, Pete, and you get another ribeye. And he did that. Eduardo Escobar, RBI double. Robinson Cano hit his first home run of the season. Now, I've been critical of Cano this week. And I'm not backing off my critique that he shouldn't be playing as much. But what I told you going into the season is I said this could be an upgrade over some of the fringe guys the Mets had on the roster last year. And I do think there's value if you use Cano properly. Don't overuse him. But when a soft tossing righty like Zach Davies is on the mound, use him. It's just when Zach Wheeler's on the mound, I don't know, maybe go with the guy who's still 26 and Dominic Smith that can catch up to that fastball. But hey, let's not harp on the negative on a day that's as joyous as this one. JD Davis didn't have the biggest day, but still contributed, walked and scored a run. Travis Jankowski starting in center field because Brandon Nimmo and Mark Canha are now in the, what do you call it, health and safety protocols, whatever it is. They tested positive for COVID. So Jankowski gets the start. He goes 3 for 4 and scores a run. I'm very happy that going into the season, I didn't make my Jonathan VR jersey bet on Jankowski. And for those of you who aren't familiar, last year, I talked pretty bad about Jonathan VR going into the season, how he was a front-running player, only got stats and blowouts and in games where the Mets were getting killed or other teams, either they had a big lead or they were down a bunch, and that was when he would pad his numbers. And then he turned out to be, maybe the third best offensive player on the Mets last season. So I bought a jersey because the fans of this show encouraged me to, said I had to eat my own words. I made this same bet or dare to James McCann this season because I don't think McCann is ever going to figure it out offensively. Today, he was 0 for 4. If I had made that same proclamation, though, on Travis Jankowski, why did Jankowski make this roster, which was certainly a take that I had. I certainly thought, like, what are we doing with this guy? Who knows? Maybe I'd be looking up a Jankowski jersey right now because this guy is hitting like over 600 for the Mets this season. But you look at what they did in this game. Chris Bassitt, once again, brilliant. 6 strong innings for this Mets team. The starting pitching has been amazing. The lineup has been amazing. And the only thing you can poke holes at is the bullpen. But even with that, the bullpen's still been more good than it's been bad. And if not for the bullpen, this Mets team would be undefeated right now. So that is where we have to lead off from here is this notion that it's LOL Mets are going to screw it up, and I get that that's still always going to be out there until this team proves otherwise. But right now, you look across this division, we now have seen these teams play actual games in the 2022 regular season. And there is no doubt in my mind the Mets look like the runaway favorite to win this division with what we've seen so far. I want to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute, but first I want to tell you about the best tasting protein bar ever, which of course is Built Bar. Built Bars come low in calories, low in sugar, low in fat, but they're high in protein and high in fiber, and they all come covered in 100% real chocolate. They also have the Built Bar Puffs, which are the first ever protein-infused marshmallows. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat that also comes covered in the 100% real chocolate with flavors like the cinnamon churro, the coconut marshmallow, and the banana cream pie. Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors. So make sure you check out their site often to see what's new at built.com. And when you're there, use our promo code LOCK15 and you're going to get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. So looking at this division right now, New York Mets are sitting atop it with a commanding lead. Let me pull up the exact standings. They got 2 games on everybody, maybe 2.5. So right now they're 6-2. Phillies are 3-4. So the Mets have a 2.5 game lead on them. The Braves are 3-5, 3 games back. The Nationals 3-5, and the Marlins are 2-4. Early in the season, let's not get carried away scoreboard watching in April. But what have we seen from these teams so far? The Atlanta Braves start their season off against the Reds. They take 2 out of 3. So at the time, we think, okay, same old Braves, good start to their season. Then they lose 2 out of 3 to that Nationals team. That National team that's not good. They also got blown out in one of those games 11-2. Then they go to San Diego and lose 12-1. Charlie Morton got roughed up yesterday. Now, if you actually watched that game, you saw a bases loaded bloop single by Eric Hosmer that was 69.1 miles per hour off the bat. That was certainly a big contributing factor to the Padres really getting rolling. You also had CJ Abrams hit a home run to the absolute shortest part of the ballpark. So I don't think that Charlie Morton is washed or over the hill by any stretch of the imagination. He's still a good pitcher. And the Braves will be competitive this year. I'm not writing them off just because they're 3-5 right now. But this idea that they just deserve the benefit of the doubt, I am starting to think that maybe they shouldn't have that benefit of the doubt because there is a World Series hangover, because you don't have Freddie Freeman on that team anymore. And no matter how good Matt Olson is, there is a leadership vacuum that happens when you lose a player of that stature that had been there that long. And I look at this Braves team, and what did I say coming in? I said it would be imperative for this Mets team to get off to a hot start because I thought the Braves might stumble out of the gate. Once they get Ronald Acuna Jr. back in the fold, they're going to be a lot better, and they're going to eventually start to roll, and they're going to win a lot of games. But if you can get a 10-game lead on them by mid-May, and then you play your best brand of baseball the rest of the season, you don't do what you did last year, which is falter. You don't take a huge slide back in the standings by losing a bunch of games in a row. You can win this division in April and May and then play toe-to-toe with the Braves for the rest of the season, and that cushion you built up could be enough. Then you talk about the Phillies, right? Phillies 3-4. They only took that one game against the Mets because the bullpen blew it, and they just lost to Miami. They're a team that is top-heavy and flawed, like we knew coming into the year. I look at that Phillies team, and we watched it play out for a series, and I just can't wrap my mind around them being better than the Mets. Just can't do it. Look at the Marlins. They can't compete with the Mets either. You look, they're playing Jesus Sanchez in center field. Their defense is not great. They're looking at their lineup and they're counting on guys like Joey Wendell and Jazz Chisholm and Garrett Cooper. And it's a team that's much improved. It's a team that could hit a stride with their great young pitching and maybe compete in the wild card. But I don't think they're competing atop this division with the Mets. And the Nationals, we just know they suck. So you look at this division right now, it's the Mets division for the taking. There's a combination of a veteran presence, of the youth coming up, like guys coming into their own, like Pete Alonso, who's just in that perfect prime of his career. He is a professional now. He has 2 full 162 game seasons under his belt now. He knows how to get through the grind, and he is off to a fast start. And I don't expect him to slow down. You have, the additions of Marte and Escobar and Canna, just bringing you just guys that know how to win baseball games. It's the little things at times. And then Buck Showalter is leading this team and making sure that everyone's in the right position to perform at their best, not only with how he writes out the lineup card and manages the bullpen, but how he handles all these egos. And it just looks like a team. It always looks like it when you're winning. That's the one thing I'll say. Show me a team that is winning at a 700 clip that isn't happy. If you're winning, everyone's happy in that dugout. But what we've seen is a team that seems to really be picking each other up, seems to really be playing for each other. And it's early, but that is a promising sign. And then you look at where the Mets go from here. You got 2 more against the Diamondbacks in this series. And then you also have another series against them in Arizona. So you play 5 of your next 9 games against the Diamondbacks, and that's a bad team. That's a team the Mets should go out and they play 5 more over their next 9. They should win at least 4 of those 5. And then you also in the middle there have a tough series against the Giants at home, but it is at home. So a 4-game set at home. If you win that series against the Giants and you beat down the Diamondbacks, and like I said, let's just say you take 4 of those 5, so 5 of 6 altogether. If you can make it through that stretch, even if you split with the Giants under that circumstance, right? You'll then have a series against St. Louis after your second one against the Diamondbacks. And then you get 11 games in a row versus Philly and the Braves. And then after that, you play the Nationals. So if you come out of all of that, let's just say you carry like a 6-game lead into that stretch where you're playing your division a bunch. And then you win all of those series against your division. As I mentioned, mid-May, you will look up at the standings, and this Mets team will be in the double digits when it comes to their lead. And if they can accomplish that, then all it is from here on out is just making sure that you don't go through any prolonged stretches of bad play. You try to just win series from that point out. The goal would be to win two out of every 3 series, maybe 3 out of every 4 series, and you're going to be in incredible shape to come away with a NL East division title. And as much as I want to see the Mets win the World Series, and this team absolutely has World Series aspirations, the way that starting pitching looks right now, if you get into the playoffs with Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Chris Bassitt, Carlos Carrasco, and Tyler McGill, and even Taijuan Walker for that matter, helping your bullpen in the playoffs too, this team, it can make a deep run. But I will not judge this particular season based on what the Mets do in the playoffs because it has been so long since they've got there and got there convincingly. What I want to see more than anything else is the Mets to grab this division and never let it up and win it convincingly, where they're clinching the division in mid-September or something crazy. That would be to me a win of a season to just get there. And then once you get there, obviously expectations might change, but this is a team right now that has very little holes. And I am done with this notion that we can't embrace it, enjoy it, and celebrate it because there's always that thought that it's going to slip through the Mets' fingers because it always has in the past. It's a new owner, there's new players, it's a new identity. This franchise is changing. And as they change the narrative, expectations change with it. But that's going to be all for this special bonus edition of Locked On Mets. As I said, these weekends for me, I'm just watching these games and something special happens. We got this YouTube channel, we got the podcast feed. You never know if more will hit it, but most likely this is the last you'll hear from me until Monday. Let's see if the Mets can close out this series sweep against the D-backs. You got Carrasco going Saturday. I don't think they have yet to announce Peterson, but I imagine David Peterson going on Sunday. As always, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. You can find me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can find the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Sully will have you covered with everything going on in Major League Baseball. You can follow Locked On MLB wherever you get podcasts.